Right, that's fine. Center that we share.
Thanks for being here. Now we can call the meeting to order. So I'm going to look at the meeting notes here. So call meeting to order. Looks like online we have Corbin and Michael. Michael, can you hear us okay?
Yep.
Corbin, you hear us okay? Perfect. I think a few meetings ago, I remember seeing Michael and he had baby with him. So pretty entertained by father efforts there.
I'm also home with 2 kids today, which is why my camera's off. So thanks and sorry.
No apologies needed. Glad you're with us. Thanks, Michael. Okay, next item on the agenda is new business. So first item 2A is approving the minutes of May 11. If there's any discussion, I entertain the discussion. If I look for a motion to approve the meeting minutes. I was not there, so I cannot speak to them. Sorry.
I move to approve the would have been May's meeting minutes.
Thanks, Corbin. Is there a second to your motion?
I will second that.
Thanks, Tony. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda under new business is impact fee annual indexing fiscal year 2023 inflation adjustments. I don't know why we talk about this. I don't know there's inflation going on in this country, so teasing, of course. Just a little bit of inflation. It's obviously happening. So I think Travis, your turn. You're gonna give us a little presentation here.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Your turn.
So I'll try to make this as unrepetitive as possible, but still.
I read through it a little bit
Okay.
too, so I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, this ENR index is it's specific on construction costs, which is great because historically we've always struggled with trying to find an index that accurately reflects the cost increase that we're seeing. Like for the last couple of years, meaning the last 5 years, we're seeing like 2 to 4% indexes that we were tracking. So the 2 to 4% increases, but last year was 5% increase in terms of our actual costs. You know, I just had a conversation with Ron Pellisfield this morning from our public works department. And he was saying that anyone that's quoting for a project that's a year out, 15% from current cost, 15%. So, I mean, it's just unbelievable. And you know, we were joking because last year at our budget hearing, which is coming up this year, but last year at the budget hearing with council, you know, Public Works presented a slide on, you know, construction costs and inflation and all that stuff. And, you know, the theme then was temporary or transitory. And now they're saying it's possibly getting even worse.
You're not hearing disagreement here.
Yeah, I mean,
I know.
It's just, I mean, and more even than pricing, it's just the availability of materials. Like they were saying, a transformer for the new, well, the rebuilt Fire Station 5, 2 years. Wow, 2 years for a transformer.
Depends on the type of transformer, that's correct. For all new construction, new subdivisions, by the way, all of them, because that big commercial buildings are different transformers. They'll be all out of those green boxes by the end of the month.
Wow.
And 1st of July, they're gone. Nationally. Can I get them? 3 to 6 months minimum. Hopefully that's all it is to get the next ones in. Wow. And so
Yeah, and rooftop like HVAC units, I heard those are 6 to 9 months out.
again, depends on the unit.
Right, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. So builders are ordering them at the start, they're trying to, you know,
Right.
usually you kind of weigh cash flow. No, now you order it so you can install it only a couple months after it's finished.
Right, like our fire station, like we'll have to finish building and then a couple months later.
Which can occupied pretty often, yeah, exactly.
So at any rate, costs are quite high. So we found a better index. And that's the ENR index. It's used by basically all of Ann's clients. As I outlined in the memo. The two main indices that they have are the building cost index and the construction cost index. And the big difference is just the skilled versus kind of common labor component, making the BCI probably more applicable for what we're doing. And here's just a chart that you can see over the last couple of years, because even this graph, you can see historically, even this index wasn't necessarily picking up the regional effects that we were seeing here. And last week I showed some graphs from Denver and Seattle, I believe. And there you could see that those numbers weren't quite as low, but still the relative difference was still quite stark. But again, like one of the things we talked about last time was, probably makes sense to just go with an overall index for the nation as opposed to, because one thing you would see is like Denver would go down for a year arbitrarily, because Seattle would skyrocket, or vice versa. And so it kind of seemed odd, unless it was our particular market, which obviously neither of those were, to pick one of those. So based on the discussion last month, we came out talking about the 13.1% is the building cost index. And like I just said, even that pales in comparison with the 15% that they just told their public works guys about.
Can I share one more piece to that? I know this is not intended to break up your presentation.
Oh, no.
Share. When I talk to contractors, there's two ways that they bid projects. One is if they want to have a kind of like with the city, you don't like to have change orders on the tail end. You want to know, okay, can we build this project? Can we afford it? Even if it's 6 or 12 months from now, when you're actually installing those things. So they're hedging their bet. They're going a little high on their costs for that reason. Some other approaches that I've seen where we agree to the price and then we'll agree to a change order on the back end.
Right.
So once for example, PVC pipe for sewer or water, I know what you're gonna bid me today, but that quote's only good for today. And once it actually lands on the job in say 60 days or 90 days from now, I will agree to a change order and it might be a 5% increase. But I'll just get a change order once the materials are actually delivered to the job. So we don't see the full 15% because they're just making guesses.
Right. Oh, right.
No one knows what price producer trying to hedge their bet a little bit. So you're probably seeing a little bit higher costs than the private sector who does it a little bit in a different way, just to share that with you.
And the one thing we are doing, so when in the early days of the pandemic, well, not the early days, mid-pandemic, when everything had already bounced back, but you were starting to see the supply shortages and things like that. That was our first instinct was, yeah, we don't want to have all these change orders and things like that. We just want a fixed price contract, basically.
Right.
But then when we were looking at exactly what you're talking about, the amount of cushion that was effectively the risk premium that they were factoring in for their own,
Well, they have to.
know that
They're not,
yeah, exactly. They're not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. But we decided exactly the opposite, right? It's like, okay, well, we'll take this risk. And so try to save some money in case those, increases didn't come to fruition. And so we probably saved a little bit of money.
Yeah, okay.
Unfortunately, a lot of the.
Yeah, I talked to a contractor just yesterday. He bought $4 million of water pipe, and if he bought it today, it'd be $5 million. He saved himself 20% in 3 months. From the time the Ukraine war started until now, he saved himself from 4 million to 5 million. That's a lot of water pipe, I get it, but it's still his job right now. I won't say the job because we're on recording here, but the point is that's a live number from this year.
But you can see there's a risk on either side.
Absolutely, both sides need to be protected or make that decision. So I respect whatever decision's made. It's just that's one way.
Right.
There's obviously more of an approach.
Yeah, and I think as a city, we're doing a better job of, all right, well, we'll take the price risk, but at the same time, we're still not probably as entrepreneurial as the person that's, all right, well, I have this project and probably 18 months out, because we don't have budget 18 months out, right? So it's.
But I think it's different here. That's
Right.
why I'm agreeing. The process is not wrong, it's just different.
Right.
And it's taxpayer dollars, you have to be careful for a lot the reasons.
Right.
Okay.
And this I just put in, because of, funny, I think it was you that pointed out 2 years ago when we did the last increase, we picked accidentally a high water mark, and then it dropped precipitously
Yeah.
come January, but here you can see we're actually really taking the bottom tick. But this is just rolling 12 months, and so you can see it's gone up, it's come back down based on the data that, you know, we saw today. Maybe it's gonna be going back up again. But so at any rate, it's, you know, it is not transitory, unfortunately. So that's it on the, and the next thing I have to talk about is just FYIs for like what projects we're doing next year, what this could mean for those project costs. But not asking for any increases now. The only thing I'm asking for now is just a recommendation on that 13.1% for the annual change.
Okay, so that would be, keep on going, or do you want us to wait?
I think we can, like, this is, the rest of the stuff is purely informational.
Okay,
And so right now, let's just stay focused on the 13.1%. And then if there's stuff to come back to, I can address those now.
okay, committee, what would you like to do with Travis's recommendation? Something. Corbin, do you want to say something?
I mean, I'm fine with it. We know inflation's bad, and I think this new index is much more up to date and better than the last by far. So, and we need to don't want to be in the same position we tend to find ourselves in all the time, where we're underfunded for a project. So I would move to approve the proposed impact fee schedule, which would be effective October 1st, 2022 to Boise City Council.
Okay, that'd be for fiscal year 2023, which is effective October 1, 2022. Okay, thank you. Okay, there's a motion. Michael, did you have a comment, or did you have a second, or any further discussion?
I would just add that I appreciate that we're looking at more realistic inflation numbers. I think that'll help us in the long run as a city and as a community, and appreciate everybody's time getting us this information, and would second Corbin's motion.
Okay, so I heard a second. Any further discussion? Please can be quiet, all right? Which is fine, so am I. I won't be quiet. I just have to say this is hard for everybody. That's just my acknowledgement. It's not easy for anybody. And what's probably harder is when we go back 4, 5, 6, whatever years later and readjust the fees again and seeing tripling or doubling of the fees, which is what we did this last time, right? That's a harder pill to swallow than the incremental changes annually. Plus, I think it's better for the budget for the city to get the increases over time to help keep up with your costs that are going up over time. So I think for those reasons, it makes sense. I hate saying that out loud, but I think it makes sense. Another comment, was that you, Corbin, or Michael?
I was just going to agree. It is hard, but it's also the reality that we are in. So,
Yeah. I will add to this comment, and this is maybe not, has nothing to do with the motion, but it's just advice to staff. I know you're watching sales, and specifically permits, I mean sales permits.
Right.
Please keep tracking that, because I think it's not just the amount, but it's also how many permits are you pulling, you know, single family, multifamily, whatever. Because at the end of the day, it's not just the amount of the impact fee, but are you collecting the full bucket you need to collect for these projects going forward? And I think we're starting to see, and I won't touch about market at this point, but the market is adjusting. And so we'll see where that takes us later. I'm not going to address that in our motion here, but we can talk later, certainly offline, what I'm seeing in the market, and give some hopefully input, which helps you in your analysis.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, motion carries. Okay, keep going, Travis.
All right, so this next bit's really brief. Here's a little disclaimer. So first of all, I'm not suggesting any changes to the fees now. We'll wait until we actually get into the projects and see if we actually need to increase the amount of revenue / costs on the project. So mostly this is just FYI. So next year's projects, with the exception of the micro districts, which I have on there solely because we're still paying it off, like borrowed money from the capital fund. But with the exception of that, these are the projects that are impact fee funded in whole or in part next year. And you can see even here, you know, I mean, the elephant in the room, right, is the parks maintenance facilities that's in the plan and, you know, something like, I think $6.3 million, and it's actually gonna be 3x that. And granted, there's more beyond just the parks maintenance facility itself, like it's the site development for the larger support facilities. So, I mean, there are some other things thrown in there. But just in terms of where costs are going, I mean, you can also look at the fire station. I mean, we just cost that thing at the 10.4. And if you recall, there was 2 years of discounting that brought it down from 11.5, but still even from 11.5, we're now thinking it's gonna be 13 or 12.9 technically. So all it is the column on the left is what's in the plan. The middle column there is what the 13.1% means. And then the revised total is in that third column there. And then that right-hand column just shows what we're currently holding in our cost budget for the city. So like I said, with the exception of parks maintenance and the fire station, the other park projects, we realize they're probably going to go over, but we haven't adjusted what we think our budget's going to be for those yet. Like the fire station, the 12.9 is what we're proposing, or what we are going to propose to council in a couple weeks.
Question for you. Can you explain on the growth column, you said the elephant in the room, the park maintenance facility building. There's a 25% and 50%. Can you explain?
Yeah, because that was the one where, because it's a long-term facility and we're building for 20-year growth rather than 10.
Okay.
It was, all right, well, you can get 25% of the cost of that facility, which obviously we're not collecting 25%, but
Doing the math, right?
yeah, exactly. The math doesn't quite work. But so that was the 25% was based on the 6.3 million total cost number. And so it was over a 20-year period, half of it was attributable to growth. But because that was over a 20-year period, you only put half of that in each 10-year period. So it was 1.5 now, 1.5, and then the next 10 years.
Got it. Okay. So it's a collection to future.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to, you know, over time figure out how that gets adjusted for inflation. Because at some point, it doesn't make sense to adjust for inflation once you've already built it. But at the same time, the costs are obviously wildly different than what we ballparked just a year ago.
Okay, thank you.
And so that's really all I had. You know, it was, again, this is just FYI on kind of what the 13% means. You can see it's about $2.5 million.
Yeah, down the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, down at the bottom. Again, not asking for any of this now, just putting it out there as what it would mean if we do go over budget.
Okay. Any questions from the committee for Travis on this slide?
Apart from the parks maintenance facility, everything looks pretty in line. If you look at the revised IF contribution versus the current COB cost totals, parks looks good.
Well,
Like you say, well, with the one exception.
well, and the reason why it looks good is just because, like Gary Lane, we're still doing master planning and
Actually, we're not. It's finished.
okay. But we don't have the final like revised estimate of the cost for what, so the only reason it looks good is because it's basically still holding the number in the left-hand column for parks projects, with the exception of parks maintenance facility.
So the good news I was trying to graph at. Actually, there.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. I mean, the good news is, on many of these. Trying to think if there's an exception, I think on all of those, you know, there is the ability to adjust scope. So
That's
that,
what I was wondering, yeah.
so that your 900,000 for Bora doesn't become 2.5.
Right.
Right, it's like, okay, well, you wanted disc golf and baseball fields, you're gonna get one or the other, which ones are gonna be, you know, that's a little trade-off.
So I have to ask two questions. This is the projects for next year, right? Two things. One is I remember loudly, I think you might have been in the room when the whole CIP was approved at council. A lot of citizens, especially the east side of town, want a pickleball court.
Yeah.
Is that in here?
Uh,
I'm not speaking for them. I'm just asking
is Alta Harrison here?
wherever the pickleball courts would go in the city.
Oh, yeah, so that was, so it was kind of this odd, kind of.
Well, there's a confluence.
Right,
Yeah.
people that wanted Alta Harris, and then like, because Alta Harris had pickleball courts, or was going to have pickleball courts,
Right.
they had the pickleball crowd,
Yeah.
that was advocating, so. The answer is, in our repairs and maintenance budget for parks next year, we have resurfacing of pickleball courts.
Oh, okay.
But I don't believe there are any net new ones.
By the way, I'm not asking for them. I'm just anticipating a question that coming to you, right? As you speak to the council on this. Okay.
Tennis court questions involved too.
Right.
Okay. The second question I have for you is, it's not this year, I didn't expect it this year, but the McDevitt Park on Eagle Road in McMillan.
Yes.
Do you know when there'll be any improvements to that site?
We're going forward with completion of the master plan, because there's a section of McDevitt that just didn't have any master plan.
Yeah, it's weeds and no plan.
Right, so yeah, it's on deck.
Can you tell me what that means, when, and?
Within the year, within
Great.
the year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think, was it supposed to be this year according to the CIP and it got pushed out a year?
No, I'm not looking for an answer now. I just knew that it's
Yes.
in the future.
It's in the hopper.
Yeah, and then once there's a plan, then there's the construction dates later, and I understand that. There's been a variety of, there's been a history to that site as far as what could go in that future area.
Yeah, it's time to address it.
So that's nice to see. Travis, anything else for us today?
I just want to confirm, so it was supposed to be it was scheduled as a 23 project, but as Trevor just said, we're just not there on the planning side, so it'll, as we're currently thinking about it, it'll be a 24 project.
Okay, great. Anything else you have for us today?
No.
Wow.
Trying to
Okay.
be, I know Chloe has to be out of here for another meeting, so I'm trying to keep it short and
She's
sweet.
gotta go get her nails done, I know.
Yep.
Okay, I'll open up for the committee for committee updates. Is there any further discussion on the committee on anything you'd like to discuss today? Corbin or Michael?
I was just curious, I don't know who this would be directed to, but I know we're short one committee member and was wondering if what efforts, myself or anybody else on the committee could do to help fill a vacancy so that, I know I appreciate everybody's efforts to move this meeting today so that we could all attend, but to ensure quorums in the future, it would be great if we could, get to our capacity as far as committee members to maybe not run quite as lean. I don't know the best way to do that, but just wanted to throw that out there to the committee and to the group.
On that note, trying to make sure we hit quorum, so I appreciate everyone's flexibility. Unfortunately, we didn't pick up any members by doing it. We ended up at the 4 that we were probably gonna have anyway. But Chloe, have you heard any more on, because I know that we had
We had a
Three
couple
applicants,
applicants and we have 2 open seats on this
Oh,
committee.
Okay.
And the mayor's office got 3 applicants, and staff said that they would recommend moving forward with any or all of them. I haven't heard back on that. We should probably follow up, but if any current members want to, push it out to people, please encourage them to contact the mayor's office,
Great,
if they're interested in serving.
thank you. That's
Thank
good. Good question, Michael. Thanks for raising that and good to hear the chance. Anything else, Michael?
No, thank you everybody for your efforts today.
Corbin, how about you?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, you started saying something.
I just wanted to echo Michael's comments. Thank you and Corbin for adjusting to the meeting today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Bye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for being.
thank you.